The sun was low in the sky when Ren walked through the forest. Tall blue trees surrounded him. Their wide leaves moved gently in the wind, making soft sounds like whispers. Birds with four wings flew above. Strange flowers opened when he passed. Ren was not a soldier or hero. He was a human explorer from Earth. His job was to study new planets and send reports back. This planet, called Yulo, was calm but wild. No cities, no machines, just nature and quiet. Ren checked his scanner. It showed signs of animal life nearby. He was about to move forward when he heard something strange. It was a sound, soft, shaky, almost like a cry. He stopped. The cry came. Again, it was high-pitched and filled with fear. Ren looked around. Is someone there? He called out. No answer. He moved carefully through the thick plants, following the sound. It grew louder. Behind a large tree with glowing roots, he found the source. A small child sat on the ground, curled up. The child was not human. Its skin was greenish and smooth, like soft leaves. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Tiny arms hugged its knees. The child was shaking. Ren knelt slowly. Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you. The child looked up, scared. It spoke a few words, but Ren could not understand. The language was different, maybe a tribal form of galactic common. Ren placed his scanner down and reached into his bag. He took out a water bottle and some food tablets. Slowly, he placed them on the ground and backed away. The child stared for a moment. Then, carefully, it took the water and drank. Its hands trembled after a few sips. It looked at Ren again. Name? Ren asked softly, pointing at himself. I'm Ren. Orion. The child looked confused, then tapped its own chest. Tacky. It said, Tacky. Ren repeated with a smile. The child gave a small nod. Orion looked around. The forest was deep and dark. There were no signs of homes or paths. Tacky must have been lost for days. Alone, hungry, and scared, Ren could not leave the child here. He stood up and offered his hand. Come, let's find your home. Tacky hesitated. Then slowly, he reached out and took Ren's hand. The forest was not easy. The path was covered with thick vines, strange bugs, and hidden holes in the ground. Ren had to carry Tacky sometimes when he was too tired to walk. They rested under a wide tree when night came. The tree's trunk gave off a soft light, like a lamp. Ren built a small fire to keep them warm. Tacky curled beside him, still quiet, but no longer afraid. Why were you alone, Tacky? Ren asked, knowing the child could not answer. Where is your village? Tacky pointed toward the mountains in the far distance. That was the only clue Ren had. We'll go there, Ren said. Don't worry, I'll keep you safe. The next day, they walked again. Ren taught Tacky small things: how to use a vine to swing across mud, how to spot safe fruits. Tacky watched everything closely. He did not speak much, but he listened well. A few times, Ren had to protect them. Once, a creature with long legs and red eyes came close. Ren used sound bombs to scare it away. Another time, the ground shook beneath their feet. An underground beast passed by. Ren held Tacky close and stayed still until it was gone. Though scared, Ren stayed calm. He had trained for wild places like this. But taking care of a child made everything harder and more important. That night, they camped beside a stream. Ren washed their clothes, cleaned a cut on Tacky's foot, and gave him warm soup. Tacky smiled a little. It was the first smile Ren had seen on his face. Good, Ren said softly. That's better. Tacky looked at him and said, Ren. Good. Ren was surprised. It was a small sentence, but it meant a lot. You too, Tacky, Ren replied. By the third day, they reached a tall cliff with glowing symbols carved into the rocks. Tacky pointed at it with wide eyes. Home, he said. Orion looked up. A hidden path led into the mountain. Strange buildings, made of stone and plant, were part of the cliffside. Lights moved slowly inside. Shaped tall figures watched from above. Orion carried Tacky the rest of the way. When they reached the edge of the village, a group of tall beings stepped out. Their skin was like Tacky's, green and soft. Their eyes glowed calmly. One of them, older and taller than the rest, walked forward. Orion placed Tacky down gently. I found him in the forest, he said. He was alone. The villagers looked at Taki, then at Rin. The elder spoke something in their language. Then, slowly, all the villagers knelt on the ground. Rin was confused. What are you doing? The elder walked closer. His voice was calm and deep. You returned the child. You showed care, strength, and wisdom. You are chosen. Chosen? Rin asked. The elder smiled. Yes, the forest sent the child. You brought him back. Now, you must face what comes next. Rin stepped back, unsure. I just wanted to help, he said. But deep inside, he knew this was not the end of his journey. This was just the beginning. Rin stood still as the alien villagers knelt before him. He had only wanted to help a lost child. Now, these tall, leaf-skinned beings treated him like someone important. He didn't understand. Taki held Rin's hand tightly and smiled. The elder stepped forward again and placed a hand on his chest. You have passed the first trial. The elder said in slow galactic common. Trial. Rin asked, what trial? The elder nodded. The forest watches. It tests strangers, a child lost. In the woods is not only a danger, it is a test. You returned him. You were kind, strong, and wise. That is the first step. Rin looked around. The villagers still knelt. Some had tears in their eyes. Others looked at Taki with pride. I didn't know it was a test, Rin said quietly. That is what makes it real, the elder replied. Rin shook his head slowly. I'm not from here. I'm not one of you. The elder smiled. Yet you acted better than many of us. Rin stayed in the village for the night. They gave him a soft bed made of woven leaves and warm glowing moss. Taki sat beside him, eating fruit from a carved wooden bowl. Outside, the sky was full of stars. Strange creatures sang in the trees. The village was peaceful, but Rin could not sleep. He thought about his mission. His ship was still out there, hidden near the river. His radio was broken, and his report was not finished, but something inside him told him to wait. In the morning, the elder returned. He introduced himself as Moya. You must come with me, he said. Ian followed Moya through stone paths and plant-covered arches. They stopped at a large wall made of rock and glowing roots. On it were carvings, old pictures of people, animals, storms, and war. Moya pointed at a carving that showed a person carrying a child through fire and beasts. This was our first chieftain, Moya said. The forest tested him too. That test made him a leader. Rin stared at the carving. It looked too much like what he had done with Taki. It gave him a strange feeling. I'm not ready to lead anyone, Rin said softly. You don't have to lead, Moya said. You only have to continue. Continue what? Moya smiled. The next part of the test. That day, Moya told Rin more about the forest. He said the beasts were growing more dangerous, the plants less healthy, and the rivers starting to dry. We need someone who sees with new eyes, Moya said. Someone not ruled by fear. Rin listened carefully. He began to understand. These people lived in balance with nature. But now, something was changing. They were afraid. They needed help, but not just help. They needed hope. Taki led Rin to the edge of the village, where the path dropped into deep forest again. There, he pointed to a thin trail. Old way, Taki said. No one goes now. Too scary. Moya joined them and nodded. The second trial is this path. If you walk it and return, the forest will speak. Then we will know if you are the one. Rin looked down the trail. It was dark and twisted. Strange sounds came from deep inside. If I say no, Rin asked, then you are free to leave. Moya said kindly. Ian thought for a moment. Then he looked at Taki. I'll go, he said. But not for the test, for Taki, for your people. Moya bowed his head. That is the right reason. Rin stepped onto the old way alone. The plants here were thick, darker than before. The air felt heavy, and the light above was weak. It was as if the forest didn't want visitors. He moved carefully, every few steps. He paused to listen. Something moved behind a tree. A shadow passed. Above. Then silence. Suddenly, a creature jumped out from the bushes. It had 6 legs, long teeth, and glowing red eyes. Rin rolled to the side and pulled out a small flare. He struck it hard. The flare burst into bright light and smoke. The creature hissed and ran back into the dark. Rin's heart beat fast, but he kept walking. He climbed over fallen logs, crossed a narrow bridge made of vines, and avoided strange plants that spat out yellow gas. Each danger made him more tired, but he didn't stop. He came to a wide hole in the ground. He had to get across. Rin tied strong vines from a nearby tree and built a swinging rope bridge. It took time, but he was careful. Halfway across, the bridge shook. Something heavy moved under him. He stayed calm, step by step. He crossed. On the other side, he rested and drank water. He looked up. In the distance, he saw something glowing. It was a large tree. Its leaves were silver, and its branches were full of light. This was not just a tree, it was something special. Orion walked toward it. When he touched the bark, it felt warm. Suddenly, the wind stopped. The forest became silent. Then, a voice not heard by ears, but felt inside. You did not seek power. You gave kindness. You used mind, not muscle. You may return. Rin stepped back, surprised. The light from the tree grew stronger, then softer. He knew now. The forest was alive, not just with animals, but with thought. It was watching everything. Orion returned to the village before nightfall. He was tired, dirty, and sore. But when the villagers saw him, they cheered. Moya came forward and asked, "Did the forest speak?" Rin nodded. "Yes, it did." Moya smiled. "Then your path is clear." Rin looked at the people around him. Some were old, some young. All looked at him with hope. He still didn't feel like a leader. But maybe he didn't have to feel like one. Maybe he just had to be one by doing what was right. The morning sun rose gently over the mountain village. A soft mist covered the forest trees, and birds sang quiet songs. Rin stood at the edge of the village, looking out at the path he had walked the day before. The memory of the silver tree and his voice still stayed fresh in his mind. He had passed the second test, but now something new waited. The villagers gathered around Rin as he returned from the forest. Some held flowers, others beat soft drums made of wood and skin. Moya stepped forward and raised his hand. He has returned. The forest has spoken, Moya said in a calm, proud voice. The crowd stayed silent for a moment. Then, slowly, every villager knelt again, just like before. Rin looked confused. "You don't have to bow. I didn't do anything special." Moya smiled. "That is why they bow. You speak with a humble heart. The forest respects that." Rin turned to Taki, who stood beside him, beaming with joy. "Is everyone always so serious here?" Rin whispered. Taki laughed and shook his head. "Only when watching you." Rin smiled. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider. He felt included. Later that day, Moya invited Rin to a high meeting with the council. The council was made of 7 elders, 3 women, 3 men, and Moya, who sat in the center. They sat on curved stones under a tall tree with wide blue leaves. The sunlight passed through the leaves and made soft patterns on the ground. Moja spoke first. "You have passed to trials, Rin, but our people face more than forest dangers. We need a guide not just for safety, but for survival." Rin listened quietly. An elder woman named Hannah leaned forward. "The crops are dying. The water from the North Stream is poisoned. Beasts attack our outer homes more often. We fear what is coming." Another elder, old and quiet, added, "You have walked paths we fear. You bring new ideas. That is why we ask you, will you help us?" Rin thought deeply. "I'm not from this world. I don't know your ways." Moya nodded. "You don't need to know everything. You only need to care, listen, and act wisely." Rin looked around the circle. These people didn't want a ruler. They needed someone to walk beside them, not above them. He finally said, "I will help. I can't promise to solve every problem, but I will do my best." The elders nodded with calm respect. Rin began to spend time with the villagers. He walked through the fields and saw the withering crops. The leaves were dry, and the soil cracked easily underfoot. Taki followed him, asking questions. "Why are the leaves brown? Why do plants die, Ren knelt and touched the soil? Maybe the water is bad. Maybe the roots are sick. He pulled out his small field scanner and tested the ground. The screen flashed yellow. Too much iron. He said, "It's hurting the roots." Ren showed the farmers how to clean water using simple filters made from rock and sand. He helped them dig small canals to bring water from cleaner streams. The next day, they saw small changes. The leaves started to stand up again. The villagers clapped and smiled. "You bring life," one woman told him. "No," Ren said. "You already had life. I just helped guide it." The next problem came from the north. A group of hunters rushed into the village. One of them had deep cuts on his leg. "A black-backed beast attacked us," a hunter said. "It chased us away from the river." Moya looked worried. "That river feeds our western crops. If we cannot go there, we will lose more food." Ren stepped forward. "Let me see the trail. I might have a way." He, along with the hunters and Taki, followed the river path. They found broken trees, claw marks on stones, and deep footprints in the mud. Ryan studied the marks. "It's large, but slow." He remembered something from his survival training on Earth. Some animals feared sound more than weapons. He took pieces of hollow wood, tied them with vines, and hung them between trees. "When the wind moves," Ren explained, "these will make sharp sounds. The beast will think danger is near." The villagers looked uncertain but agreed to try. That night, the wind blew hard. The hollow woods whistled loudly, deep in the forest. The beast growled once, then nothing. In the morning, they saw the trail was clear again. The beast had left. The hunters bowed to Ren. "We can hunt again. The crops are safe." That evening, the villagers held a celebration. Fires were lit in the center of the village. Music filled the air, flutes, drums, and soft singing. Children danced. An old one smiled with watery eyes. Moya stood beside Ren. "Do you see now? You were not tested to rule. You were tested to care." Ren nodded. "I'm still learning, but I want to learn more." Taki pulled Ren's hand. "Come dance." Ren laughed. "I'm not a good dancer." "You don't need to be," Taki shouted, pulling him into the circle. Ren danced clumsily, but everyone laughed and cheered. For the first time in a long while, Ren felt truly happy. As the night grew darker, Ren looked at the stars above. He thought about his old life, his quiet ship, his mission reports, and the lonely days of travel. Now, he had a purpose beyond orders. He was part of something larger. He wasn't just an explorer anymore. He was a guide, a helper, maybe even a leader. And he had no idea what was coming next, but he was ready to face it. The village of the leaf-skinned people woke early. The air was fresh, and the sky had a soft orange glow. Birds sang sweet songs from high branches. Ren stood near the crop fields, watching the villagers work with energy and hope. Things were changing since his arrival. Small problems were slowly being fixed. Clean water reached the fields again. The angry beast had left the northern river. People smiled more often. Children ran freely again. But Ren knew this peace would not last if deeper problems were not solved. That day, Moya met Ren under the tall tree where the council sat. The tree's blue leaves moved in the wind above them. Moya's face looked serious. Ren. He said, "You have helped much, but one trial remains." Ren raised an eyebrow. "Another trial?" Moya nodded. "This one is not from the forest. It is from the people." Ren listened carefully. "We have not had a true chieftain since our last leader returned to the soil." Moya continued. "Our people are afraid of what is coming. The balance of nature is changing." "I'm not a leader," Ren said quietly. "I'm just someone who helps." Moya placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is what a true chieftain does." The next morning, the entire village gathered near the large stone circle at the center. It was the place where elders shared knowledge and decisions were made. Flowers were placed on the ground. A drum beat slowly. Moya stood in the middle and raised his hand. "Today, we offer the challenge of guidance," he said. "Not to test power, not to test strength, but to see heart and wisdom." All eyes turned to Ren as he stepped forward. Moja continued, Rin will lead a team to the ruined water tower near the southern cliff. The tower once gave clean water to distant homes. Now it is broken. We must repair it to survive the dry season ahead. Rin nodded. I'll go. Taki jumped up quickly. I will go with you. Moya smiled. You may. But listen to his words. Watch what he does. 3 more villagers joined the group. Mero, a quiet builder, Lonnie, a fast climber, and Dono, a young healer. Rin looked at them and said, let's prepare well. We leave before the sun climbs high. The path to the southern cliff was not easy thick. Trees blocked the way. Vines curled around their legs. Strange flying bugs buzzed around them. But Rin stayed calm. At one point, they reached a steep hill. The old stone steps were broken and covered in moss. Lonnie helped Taki climb carefully. Mero used tools to clear the way. As they walked, Dono pointed to the sky. Storm clouds are coming. Rin looked up. He had seen such clouds before. They brought heavy rain and wild winds. We need to fix the tower fast, he said. By afternoon, they reached the old water tower. It stood tall but broken, leaning to one side. The base was covered in cracks. The water pipes were dry and bent. This will not be easy, Mero said. Rin looked at the tower for a long time. Then he spoke. We will fix it step by step. First, we make it stand straight. Then we clean the pipes. He drew a quick plan in the dirt. Everyone nodded. Lonnie climbed up to tie ropes. Mero used wooden sticks to support the base. Rin and Taki cleaned the inside of the tower using buckets and brushes. Dono prepared herbs to protect against sickness in case of bad water. The wind grew stronger. Thunder rumbled far away. We must hurry, Rin said. As they worked, the tower began to look strong again. The pipes were cleaned, the cracks were filled, and the base was steady. Rain started to fall lightly, but then a loud crack filled the air. A large tree nearby had been struck by lightning. It burned and leaned toward the tower. Ryan shouted, move away, but the tree was falling fast. It would crush the tower. Without thinking, Rin ran toward the base. He grabbed a heavy support beam and pushed it into place. Mero joined him. Together, they braced the tower as the tree hit the ground beside it just inches away. The tower shook, but it stood. The rain poured down harder. The sky was dark, but inside, the group smiled. They had saved it. That night, they camped near the repaired tower. Taki sat beside Rin, warming his hands by the fire. You were not afraid, Taki said. I was, Rin replied, but I didn't let it stop me. Is that what a chieftain does? Rin looked at the stars. A chieftain protects, guides, listens, and sometimes risks. Taki nodded thoughtfully. The next day, they returned to the village. People ran to meet them. Moya came forward with hope in his eyes. The tower, he asked, working. Rin said, it will give water again. The crowd clapped and cheered. Moya raised both hands. Today, our people saw more than a helper. They saw a leader, not one who shouts, but one who acts. Not one who commands, but one who serves. He turned to Rin. Will you accept the voice of our people? Will you be the chieftain not above us, but beside us? Rin looked at the villagers. He saw trust in their eyes. Hope, respect. I will, he said, if you'll have me. Moya smiled. Then today, you are not just friend, you are our guide. Taki ran forward and hugged Rin tightly. Chief Rin, he said proudly. Rin laughed. Just Rin is fine. But inside, he felt a deep warmth. He had come to return a child. Now, he was chosen to guide a people. Rin stood at the top of the village hill. From there, he could see the forest, the rivers, and the distant mountains. A soft wind moved the tall grass around him. Birds flew in the sky. Free and peaceful. Below, the village was full of life. People worked in the fields, children played near the water, and laughter echoed from the homes. The water tower was sending clean water again. The crops looked greener. The village was alive with hope. But Rin's heart was full of questions. He had agreed to be the new chieftain, but he still did not feel ready. Ryan came from a different world. He knew about machines, maps, and survival tricks, but he did not know old stories, sacred songs, Or the meaning of the village dances? Can I really guide these people? He asked himself. Taki climbed the hill and sat beside him. The small child, once lost and afraid, now looked happy and strong. Why do you sit alone? Taki asked. I'm thinking, Ren said, about being chieftain. Taki smiled. But you already are. Ren looked at him. Why do you believe that? Because you care. Taki answered. You listen. You fix things. You protect us. Ren smiled but said nothing. Taki's words touched him deeply. Later that day, Ren walked through the village. He visited the school where young ones learned about stars, plants, and songs. He watched as a teacher showed how to make colors from crushed berries. The children laughed and painted pictures of trees and animals. Next, he went to the healer's tent. Dono, the young healer who went with him to the water tower, was mixing herbs. These are for the small cough going around, Dono said. We dry them in the sun, then boil them in water. Ren nodded. That's good. Maybe I can help build better drying racks. Dono smiled. You always help. That's why people follow you. In the evening, the council gathered again under the great blue leaf tree. Moja began. Today, we speak of the future. A new season is coming. We must prepare our homes, tools, and food. The elders looked at Ren. He stood slowly. I've walked through the village. I see your strength, your care, and your skills. I can help, but I also need help. He pointed at the elders. Each of you knows more than I do about this land. I don't want to rule. I want to work together. The elders nodded in agreement. Moya said, Then you lead not as master, but as one of us. That night, the village placed a simple woven band across Ren's chest, light brown, made from forest vines. It was the mark of the chieftain. No crown, no gold, just respect. The next few days were full of work. Our iron helped farmers build water catchers for the dry season. They used wide leaves and bamboo like pipes to collect rain. Together, they placed the catchers near every home. With the builders, Ren helped create stronger fences around the village. They used thorn vines and wood to keep wild animals away. Without hurting them, the fence was both strong and respectful to the forest. He also worked with the knowledge keepers. They showed him old maps, stories, and songs. He listened with care, learning the history of the people and their bond with the land. One evening, while returning from the field, Ren saw smoke rising near the western edge of the village. He rushed toward it with others. A small house was burning. A cooking fire had spread. Flames licked the walls, and smoke filled the air. Ryan shouted, Water. Sand moved fast. The villagers formed a line, passing buckets of water and wet blankets. Ren led the way, covering his mouth and entering the house to check for people inside. A woman and her child were trapped behind fallen wood. Ren lifted the wood with all his strength. The woman coughed and held her child tightly. Follow me. Ren said. He guided them out safely. By sunset, the fire was out. The house was damaged, but no one was hurt. The villagers gathered, tired but safe. The woman who was saved hugged Ren tightly. Thank you, she whispered. Ren looked around. We did this together. That night, under the stars, Ren sat near the same hill again. Moya joined him. You have done more than we hoped, Moya said. The people trust you. You have earned more than the title. You've earned their hearts, Ren nodded. But I still feel like I'm learning every day. Moya smiled. That never changes, even I learn. A true chieftain does not know everything. He asks, listens, and learns. Ren looked up at the stars. Back on Earth, I was only an explorer. I thought I would study this planet and leave. Now, I feel like I belong here. Moya's voice was calm. Maybe the forest brought you here for that reason. The next morning, a surprise arrived. A small human scout ship landed near the river. It was part of the team Ren had once worked with. Two humans stepped out in clean white suits. Looking round in wonder, Commander Ren, one asked. Ryan walked forward. I'm here. We've been looking for you. You've been gone for weeks. Are you ready to return? Ren looked at the villagers gathering behind him, Taki waving happily. Dono smiling, and the elders standing proud. He thought, for a moment, I found something more important than a report, Ren said. I'll stay a while longer. The team nodded slowly. Understood, Commander. Send word when you're ready. The ship lifted off gently and disappeared into the sky. Ren turned back to the village. Taki ran up and took his hand. You're not leaving? Ren shook his head. Not now. There's still work to do. Taki grinned. Good. Chieftain has many things to fix. Ren laughed. Then let's get started, together. They walked back into the heart of the village home. The skies over the village turned dark. Thick gray clouds gathered above the mountains. The wind blew harder, shaking the trees and bending the tall grass. Birds flew low, searching for shelter. A storm was coming. Ren stood in the center of the village, looking up at the sky. His face was calm, but his heart felt uneasy. He had seen storms before, but this one felt different, stronger, wilder. Moya walked beside him. This is no ordinary storm. The forest feels afraid. Ren nodded. We must prepare. Tell everyone to stay inside. Make the roofs stronger. Tie everything down. Moya gave a quick nod and rushed to help the villagers. All day, Ren helped the people get ready. The children were taken to the learning hall, the strongest building in the village. The healers packed medicine and herbs. Hunters returned early to help tie ropes and gather wood. Taki followed Ren, carrying a small basket of tools. I want to help, Taki said. You already are. Ren replied with a smile. The wind howled louder as night came. The sky turned almost black. Then, without warning, the storm hit. Rain poured like a waterfall. The wind roared like a wild animal. Trees bent under the pressure. Some even cracked and fell. Lightning flashed across the sky again, and again. Our eye moved through the storm, checking each home. Water leaked from the roofs. Some walls shook, but the villagers stayed calm. Just like Ren had taught them, suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the village, a sharp crack followed by a bright flash. One of the sacred trees near the edge of the village had been struck by lightning. Fire spread through its wide branches. The flames danced in the wind, burning fast. Fire! Someone shouted. The flames jumped from the tree to a nearby storage hut filled with dry leaves and food supplies. The fire grew quickly. Ryan ran toward it, shouting, Buckets, sand. We can't let it reach the houses. The villagers formed a long line. Buckets of water were passed from hand to hand. Ren and Moya threw wet blankets on the flames, but the wind made everything harder. Sparks flew through the air, landing on dry roofs. Taki watched from the side, eyes wide with fear. Then he gasped, Loma's house. It's burning. Ren turned. A small house near the back of the village was on fire. The roof was already collapsing. Is anyone inside? Ren shouted. No one knows, a woman replied. Without thinking, Ren ran toward the house. Smoke filled the air. The flames licked the wooden walls. Inside, he heard a soft cry. A child. Ren covered his mouth with his arm and entered the burning house. The heat was strong. Smoke burned his eyes. But he moved. Forward. In the corner, under a table, was a small girl. She was scared and coughing. Come here, Ren said. The girl crawled out. Ren lifted her in his arms and turned to leave. Just then, part of the roof fell behind him, blocking the door. Ryan looked around. The fire was closing in. He kicked open a small side window and pushed the girl through. Then he climbed out after her. Villagers rushed forward and carried the child to safety. Ryan coughed and sat on the ground, his clothes covered in ash. You're safe now, he whispered. By morning, the fire was out. The storm had passed, leaving behind broken trees, burnt wood, and tired faces. Smoke still hung in the air, but the village was still standing. No one had died. The people had worked together like never before. Ryan walked slowly through the village. He saw the damage, the fallen huts, the blackened earth, but also the strength. Villagers helped each other, shared food, and gave water to the tired. Moja stood beside him. You did more than lead. You risked your life. I couldn't leave her, Ren said. No one should be left behind. Moya smiled. The forest saw what you did, and so did we. Later that day, the villagers gathered in the open field. The sky was clear again. The sun warmed their faces. A new day had begun. Moya raised his hand. We have suffered, but we are not broken. We lost food, but not hope. We lost trees, but not courage. And we have a chieftain who stands with us in storm and fire. He turned to Rin. You are more than chosen. You are one of us. Our chieftain by action, our guide by heart. The villagers clapped. Taki ran up and hugged Rin tightly. You saved the girl, Taki whispered. Rin held the child gently. We all saved each other. In the following days, the village worked together to rebuild. Rin helped design stronger roofs with stones at the corners to stop the wind. Builders made new firewalls between homes. Water storage was improved, and sand buckets were placed at every corner. The sacred tree was gone, but in its place, they planted 3 new saplings. Children watered them every day. Taki asked Rin, will the trees grow strong again? Rin nodded. Yes, just like the village, just like us. One night, as stars filled the sky, Rin sat alone near the edge of the forest, the silver tree from his second trial glowed far in the distance. He thought about the journey, how it began with a lost child and led to fire, storm, and hope. He had not come looking to lead, but now he could not imagine being anywhere else. He closed his eyes and listened to the forest's quiet voice in the wind. You stood in fire. You stood in fear, and you stood for them. Rin smiled. He was no longer just a visitor. He was home. The sun rose slowly over the forest. A golden light touched the village rooftops, shining on fresh wooden walls and new growing trees. The air was peaceful now. The storm had passed. The fire was gone. Life had returned to calm. Rin stood near the center of the village. His hands were rough, his clothes still marked with soot, but his eyes were clear. He had not come to this planet to become a leader. Yet now, he was one. Moya joined him, carrying a scroll made from bark and cloth. The elders are calling for the final step, Moya said. You must complete the last rite of passage. Rin raised his eyebrows. There's more. Moya nodded. One last choice. The forest has tested your courage, your heart, your strength. Now it tests your purpose. The entire village gathered near the sacred stones. Flowers were placed around the area. Children sat at the front. The healers wore bright robes. Elders carried staffs made of twisted wood. Moya stepped forward and held up the scroll. Rin has passed all trials. He returned the lost one. He won the trust of the forest. He saved us during the storm. Now the final test begins, not with fire or danger, but with choice. He turned to Rin. You must visit the echo tree. It grows deep inside the forest. It listens. It remembers. There, you will face a choice. Stay and become chieftain of our people, or leave and return to your world. Rin was silent. He had not expected this. Moya handed him a carved wooden token. This is the symbol of decision. You must place it at the roots of the echo tree. If you leave it behind, the tree will know you choose to stay. If you keep it, the forest will open a path. Back to the sky, Rin looked at the token. It was smooth and warm, shaped like a leaf with a star in the center. I understand, he said softly. That night, Rin walked into the forest alone. The moon guided him through the trees. The animals watched but did not fear him. The wind whispered through the leaves. After hours of walking, he reached a hill. On top stood the echo tree. It was tall and silver, its branches reaching toward the stars. Its trunk glowed with soft light. The roots were thick and curled like waves. The ground around it was silent, but full of life. Rin stepped close and placed his hand on the bark. It felt alive. Suddenly, a gentle voice echoed in his mind, not in words, but in feeling. Why do you walk alone, human? I must choose, Rin replied quietly. Stay or leave. The tree pulsed with a soft blue light. You gave much to this village. You bled, you built, you saved. But what do you want? Rin sat at the base of the tree and looked up. I miss the stars, he said. I miss the sounds of my old world. But here, I found something I never had before. What is that? A home. Not by birth, but by action. They trusted me. They accepted me, and I learned to care for them. The tree glowed brighter. And if you leave, Ren sighed, they will find another leader. Life will go on, but I will always wonder what more I could have done. He held the wooden token tightly. His hand trembled slightly. He thought of Taki's laughter, of the villagers working side by side, of the burning house and the night he saved the life, of planting the new trees, of the respect in Moya's eyes. He placed the token at the roots of the echo tree. The ground hummed gently. The light wrapped around the token like vines, pulling it into the earth. Then, the tree's voice whispered again. Then stay and grow. With us, your choice is heard. As Ren stood, the forest opened behind him. A path of glowing moss led back to the village. When he returned, the villagers waited in silence. Moya stepped forward, eyes searching Ren's hands. Ryan showed them his empty palm. The crowd cheered. Flowers were thrown into the air. Drums beat loudly. Children danced. Moja smiled. You have chosen us. Now, we choose you. From this moment, you are not just Ren. You are Chieftain Ren of the Forest Village. In the days that followed, Ren led with patience and care. He listened to the elders, taught the children, and helped rebuild stronger homes. He worked beside hunters, planned with healers, and made peace between rival families. He also started a small space garden, where herbs from Earth and plants from the village grew together. It became a place of learning and sharing. Taki helped water the garden every morning. Do you miss the stars? Taki asked once. Sometimes, Ren said with a smile. But now, the stars feel closer. They are part of my story, not my escape. One evening, as the sun set in golden light, Ren stood near the edge of the village. He watched the forest move gently in the wind. Moja joined him, holding the cups of sweet leaf tea. You know, Moya said, we once thought no outsider could ever lead our people. And now, Ren asked. Moja smiled. Now we know it's not where you are born, but what you choose that matters. They drank the tea quietly as night covered the sky. Stars began to appear, one by one, like tiny memories shining above. Ryan had passed the test, not by power, not by skill, but by heart. And in doing so, he lit a new path for both his people and theirs.